This is What If Deku Could Time Slip Part 1. That was a very complex story. I haven't done something like this since last time where I did What If Deku Could, or What If Deku was in a time loop, and that was a bad story, honestly. I didn't really think it through because I just got done watching a bunch of other stories that were like time loop or like Groundhog Day. But let's just dive right into this fan fiction. What if Deku could time slip? Kind of like Loki. Well, exactly like Loki in the Loki series with the TVA. Basically, simple, a TVA and a bunch of other things that have to do with time travel, and the multiverse will be a part of this story, but mainly we'll be focusing on how Deku would use this ability, going back in time and knowing the future, and switching between certain points in time and changing the events of the My Hero Academia universe. How would he affect everything? How would he destroy or save everyone? How could he make this power into a blessing, being able to go in and out of time and being thrown in the past, the future, and the present? How would this happen? How would this change Izuku Midoriya's existence in the My Hero Academia universe? We start our story off with Izuku doing, well, his vigilante arc. During this fight, we would see Deku would fight one of the assassins that were hired by All For One that go after him. Now what happened is he would be fighting this guy back to back to back, but he would get pushed down to the ground. As this guy would actually start to overpower Izuku. This guy's taking out multiple shots of energy straight towards Izuku, faster than Izuku can catch up even with his newfound quirks. Eventually Izuku would get close enough as the guy would have started to beat. His body started to blow and blow and blow, as it would have been some sort of gamma radiation blast quirk All For One would have hit on top of this guy. But something would have changed. Something out of a million chances would have happened. With this blast of gamma radiation, plus the site they were next to being a supercharged, atom splitting scientist lab. I don't know. They were in a lab in Japan, and they were fighting like a broken down lab after Shigaraki's whole attack on the city. As he would have looked closely, as it would have been some sort of chemicals everywhere, as all the chemicals would have splattered out around everything, as time would have stopped and stood still. Mixed with the quirks and the amalgamation of quirks, all from what we would have given this assassin. And the assassin was started to burn and fly away, basically turning into dust, Thanos snap style. As Izuku would have noticed that everything around him was standing still, and he would have looked behind himself, seeing a version of him. Izuku's confused, saying, "What in the hell?" As Deku's thrown back not years, but months in the past, as eventually Izuku finds himself on the first day of My Hero Academia, the first day of UA, as Deku opens his eyes and realizes that his body still feels the same, but he just looks like his younger self. As Izuku looks around, and he basically notices everything's the same. Everyone's safe. Aizawa isn't hurt. Everything seems to be okay. Izuku kind of starts to go crazy in himself, starting to go through his mind, saying, "Is this all a dream? Did I dream the last year of my life? Did I dream all those stuff with All For One? What's going on?" As Izuku, confused, stands up and says, "What the hell is this? Is this a trap? Is this a trick?" As Ozawa says, "What are you talking about, Izuku? Sit back down." As Deku yells at him, saying, "Don't trick me. Don't play with me. As Deku started to yell out and freak out, eventually people trying to tell him to calm down, but eventually Izuku would have been pushed back farther in, well, the future, but not in the present. As Deku would be thrown into the future, seeing something he should have never saw. Izuku would have looked around and would have saw All Might dead. All For One lean over all of Japan, and Shigaraki being at the right-hand man at the center of all of it. And all the heroes down to their knees, destroyed and brought down, all because Izuku was out of time. For that short second he was gone, time moved slowly but very much fast in the real present time. Without his help, the world would have fell apart. As Izuku looked at All For One noticing him trying to shoot a bolt of energy towards Izuku, but Izuku would have dodged out the way trying to fight against him, but him easily getting overpowered and barraged with multiple blasts of energy and shards of crystal-like energy coming towards him like another quirk, All For One picked up. As Deku would have been on the ground bleeding out as All For One was about to take his quirk, but him being slipped back into, the past. Izuku opening his eyes, and it being the forest train arc. Izuku being very much confused on what the heck's going on. Izuku would have looked around, and would have looked closely around his environment, and noticing some screams in the background, him realizing that Koda was here. The exact time where Koda was about to get killed by Muscular. As Izuku's rinses off, or pretty much speeds off, as Izuku realizes that he has the same strength and speed he's had in the present, just with his younger body. But it feels a lot more painful more than ever, since his body's younger and it isn't up to date to the physical anatomy he has in the future. As Izuku starts to run, eventually catching up with Muscular, as he realizes Muscular's weakness of his muscles basically being in and out. As he overuses his muscles, its gaps have slowly start to open. As Izuku notices this and tries to play on this a lot earlier and in the fight. As Izuku ends the fight in at least about 5 minutes or so, because he goes straight for the finishing blow and tries to end the fight as fast as possible, not really caring for any of this overly excessive character development that Izuku gets doing this fight. What happened is Izuku would have beaten this guy a lot faster and a lot quicker with minimum to no damage to the wall or the cave side they were at. As Izuku would have looked over at Koda, telling Koda to run now. As Koda would have ran off, Izuku finishing the job and punching the absolute soul out of Muscular, knocking him out cold. Deku would have looked around and him trying to figure out if he was going to time slip again, but him standing there for about 20 to 15 minutes, realizing that he wasn't time slipping, and he probably is stuck in this time frame. But this is a good amount of time for Deku to change what happens in the future. For Deku to change what happens, and for Deku to change who dies and who lives. As Izuku runs off, as Izuku realizes that he knows multiple other villains that have died, and he also knows a lot of stories, and also realizes the amount of pain and suffering Twice has been through. As he goes throughout Twice's files in this new universe, as he went through, Twice's files doing his whole vigilante arc that was off screen in this universe, as he would have realized Twice was somewhat of a good person in some form or way. He tried doing the right thing at the end, as Hulks would have put a little bit of a, write down or assessment of his character and his psyche. As Izuku would have ran down there, seeing Twice there, as his main mission was to get the villains out of here or just take them all down as one. As Deku would have rushed and, bum rush Shigaraki, him going straight for the beeline, trying to stop him before he could even get close to getting anywhere near the successor of All For One. As Deku would have grabbed All For One's successor, aka Shigaraki, by the freaking scalp, trying to take him down, Shigaraki would have tried to grab his hand. As Deku would have dodged out the way, grabbing Shigaraki's forearms and throwing him into the ground, as he was about to break Shigaraki's forearms or his, wrist. As what would happen is, Tokiyami would have come out of nowhere. Not Tokiyami, but I can't remember his name. Kurogiri would have come out of nowhere. Pretty much, slapboxing the absolute snot out of Izuku. Izuku would have been bum rushed into a bunch of trees, him getting jumped by the rest of the League of Villains. Compression trying to jump him, throwing multiple bricks and multiple building-size pieces of rubble he was in his marbles. If you know his quirk, you know his quirk. It sounded really bad, but in his marbles, he would have thrown these pieces of not cardboard, but I guess drywall, concrete, and a bunch of other things like pillars, as Izuku would start to dodge out the way as fast as possible, as people would have noticed that Deku was moving faster, Shigaraki especially, and also, everybody else that was there. As, Ochako would have noticed Izuku was different. It was some sort of rage in his eyes, like he had a mission, like he knew what was happening. As Izuku would have started to dodge out the way faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, eventually him finding himself a lot faster than he ever could have been with his nimbler body, as he would have started to focus more on just the quirk he got from, I think, the second user of One For All. And basically the power that allowed him to become faster and faster over the excessive movement of a repeating force, like him building up kinetic energy if he squatted up and down, or did multiple runs in place, and it would have propelled himself faster. As Zuko would have used this skill multiple times throughout the fight, him taking down, what was it? Uh, the, what was it? I can't remember his name. The knife teeth guy. Him knocking him out with one blow with a heavy kick to the face. Him taking down compression, and him also grabbing Dobby and knocking the absolute soul out of Dobby. Him basically just one-shotting all the League of Villain members, as they would have not been prepared for Deku's extremely newfound strength and speed and agility, and also reflexes and skill. Zuko would have been having not years, but pretty much a year and months worth of envelopment and strength just thrown onto this new body. But Deku would have started to realize that his younger body with all his abilities was hurting his body more than he could possibly even keep up with. His body not even registering the amount of damage Deku was putting his body through. Zuko would have realized his arms were obliterated, his legs were shattered, and his whole body was filled and pretty much rattled with fractures and cuts and scratches that were basically being pushed through his skin. Zuko would have started to run off, trying to get away from the League of Villain members, as they would have started to hunt him down, noticing that Deku was incredibly weak, but also them noticing that Deku became incredibly strong. Dobby going out for blood, trying to kill them, but him coming across, well, I would say, but him coming across Todoroki, as he would have started to absolutely bum rush Todoroki with flames on top of flames, as this whole event with Deku intervening with the forest training arc would have came to Dobby throwing a huge chunk of fire towards Todoroki. Todoroki dodging out of the way, but him trying to fight against Dobby as best as he could, as them basically going blow for blow, shot for shot. Zuko would have been running around the whole forest trying to figure out where the hell everybody is, and him trying to figure out and save as much people as he possibly can. Eventually, Deku would come across a clearing in the forest as he about to run away, but he heard a familiar voice. He would have heard All For One. Deku looking over as he would have started to bum rush it. I mean, he would have started to bolt it. Deku realizing that he wasn't strong enough in this younger body, and he needed a time slip into a current time where he could save people. Deku would have been running, but eventually Deku getting hit with a newfound realization. Something happened. Something different. Deku would have opened his eyes as he would have been in some sort of, mind space. The same mind space where the users of All For One, or One For All, would have been at. As Deku would have looked around, seeing no other users of All For One, and One For All, and seeing no other users of One For All, as Deku would have looked around, and him seeing a man in all green, and with some sort of yellow hair, as the man would have walked over to Izuku, telling him that his power is unrivaled. But he needs to realize this, that his power, his quirk, is exponentially powerful and stronger than any other person on this world, and All For One wanted it for himself. But him passing it on to this quirk, and him erasing his memory, his essence from this time, and from the mind space where no one else could find him, he needed to unlock and tell Zuko his truth. This would be the actual 9th user of All For One, Deku being the 10th user of All For One. As Deku would be confused, as this user would have said that, he was passed on the quirk, but his power was to manipulate, time. And not just being limited to, Erie's quirk, being able to reverse time on objects. No, he literally could control and manipulate time and space itself, but it would do a toll on his body, as his body would decompose, destroy, or even just have kidney failure or organ failure at random times. To put it simple, his power would kill him. Not slowly, but instantly. As soon as he uses power to change time, a specific exponentially big change, like saving people or saving somebody from death or changing history or going as far as to, win the lottery, it would hurt his body more than he could possibly withhold. And it would always be random. But the bigger the change in time, the bigger, the injury, and the more it would hurt. Izuku would have been told that this downfall would have not been given to him, since he would be a user or a pass-on user to control this power. What happened is Deku would be confused, saying, "So where's everybody else?" He would say that they'll come back to you with time, as your main mission. I'm lending this power to you to save everyone. Zuko being confused, saying, "What do you mean save everyone? You can't save everybody. You could try, but you can never really truly save everybody." Zuko goes on about this, but this man goes on about how he has the power, and now you do, to change time. He would have gone on about how his power is godlike, and that it was too much for him, but it was enough for Zuko, as he would have given Deku more accessibility to this time-traveling quirk. Deku being stuck in a time loop to basically switch in between time, back to back to back, switching into the future, the past, and the present, as Deku would be told that with this newfound power came responsibility, that he needed to save everybody, that he needed to figure out a way to help everybody before they died, to help everybody before the future he saw earlier would happen and come to fruition. He would have been told that his power, his strength, would lead him to glorious things and would save the world. But it's all up to him and his mindset. How he chooses to fix the future is up to him. The main thing is the time slipping will stop if you change the future for the better of everyone. As Izuku is left away, as the man tells him that his next found unlocked or opening to this power would be the ability to reverse time on his wounds or on his body, giving him the ability of Erie's quirk. Put it simple, as he would have been basically told that it would only work on Izuku's body to keep him from pretty much breaking his body apart using his newfound quirks in the future, as it would just be a quick little boost to give Deku that edge for him to save everyone. Now what happened is the man would have disappeared, and Deku would have woken up in another time lap, as he would have woken himself up after the events of, well, what happened during the forest training arc, as Izuku would be in the hospital, and everybody would be basically chilling at school, basically not being really at school, but basically everybody being kind of scared after what would happen. Now what would happen is Izuku would be very much confused on what just went down, but him really noticing and actually remembering everything that really went down, as he would have told everybody that he needed some time to breathe, as he would have walked away. They could go into the hospital bathroom, as he would have looked at himself in the mirror saying that I need to save everybody. Now if this is true and I'm going through time, I need to save everyone. As I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. So yeah, so like you kind of realize that it was kind of half-baked, but at the same time, part 2 and 3 will be the end of the series. So basically, this is going to be a 3-part series, and with this series comes about, let's say, 2 other parts, right, that basically go into depth on how Deku is going to figure out how to save everyone, including Twice and all other villains, and basically find a way to save everyone, and also basically find a way to become, well, whole again, not being stuck in this time skipping situation. Now what happened is I'm gonna leave it up here, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe, and as always, guys, have a blessed day. Deuces.